you still don't know who's destroying you. Have you ever looked at your life and felt like something is slowly withering, and yet you can't name it? There's no enemy outside, no shouting, no war. And still, something inside you is breaking. You're tired in ways sleep can't fix. You're empty in rooms filled with people. You're screaming in silence. And maybe, just maybe, it's not because of what happened, but because of who keeps happening to you. They don't hit you. They don't scream, they don't leave bruises, they smile, they care, they stay. But something inside you, your joy, your fire, your presence, starts vanishing around them. And the worst part, you've learned to call that love. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." But what happens when the ones who destroy your soul are the very ones who claim to protect it? This isn't about enemies. This isn't about strangers. This is about the 6 people Jung warned us about, not because they wear masks, but because we hand them the mask ourselves. They're subtle, they're soft, they're seductive, and they walk right through your boundaries while calling it connection. This video is not for the faint. It's not for those who want comfort. It's for those who are ready to name the soft assassins of their inner world. The ones who feed on your guilt, who cling to your light but curse your fire, who make your silence feel like a flaw. By the end of this video, you'll know who they are. More importantly, you'll know why you let them in. Because sometimes, what destroys us most wears our favorite face, the enemy that wears a smile. There's a kind of danger that doesn't shout. It doesn't slam doors. It doesn't raise its voice. It invites you in. It asks how you're doing. It says it cares. But then, slowly, invisibly, it begins to shape you into something small, something agreeable, manageable, less complicated, less you. And because you've been conditioned to feel loved by not being a burden, you stay. Carl Jung spent a lifetime studying these unconscious patterns. He knew that we don't just get hurt by others, we collude with them, we adapt, we shrink, we let them sit in the front seat of our psyche, because their comfort seems more important than our truth. But here's what no one tells you. Not everyone who looks safe is safe for your soul. Some people calm the storm on the surface while poisoning the well beneath it. You feel this in your gut, that tightening before a conversation, that slight hesitation before you share your joy, that subtle self-erasure you do without even realizing it. They don't attack you, they adjust you. They make you feel like you're too much. And so, you begin to be less. But Jung warned us, what you resist persists. What you deny controls you. And this is the truth. We don't just attract these people, we are drawn to them because they match our internal wounds. They fit like a puzzle piece. Because somewhere deep inside we still believe, love means proving I'm worth staying for. That belief is the doorway. And the 6 people you're about to meet, they all walk through that door wearing different disguises. But their impact is the same. They make you doubt yourself, in your own home, in your own body, in your own mind. This isn't about hating them. It's about recognizing the pattern so you can finally break it. It's about reclaiming the voice you've silenced to keep the peace. Because here's the bitter truth. If you have to go silent to be loved, it's not love. It's control. And control, even when gentle, is still a cage. In the next chapters, we will walk through each of these 6 figures Jung hinted at. But before we name them, you must remember this. They don't destroy you by accident. They destroy you by invitation. The question is, why are you still letting them in? The affectionate executioner. They rarely get angry. They rarely shout. They don't need to. They have a weapon far more effective: your guilt. This person loves you, or at least that's what they say. They check in, they support you, they're always there. Until you ask for space, until you say no, until you need something they don't want to give. Then their warmth turns cold, their smile disappears, and suddenly you feel like the villain for simply being honest. This is not an abuser in the conventional sense. This is the emotional debtor, the one who keeps a quiet ledger of everything they've done for you. Every time they showed up, every time they sacrificed. And when you fall short of their silent expectations, they withdraw, they sulk, they look disappointed, and they don't say it out loud, but the message is deafening. You owe me. Carl Jung spoke of how manipulation often wears the mask of devotion. He called it the unconscious contract, a dynamic where one gives, not out of love, but to secure emotional control. This person wants to be needed, not seen. And when you stop needing them, or worse, set a boundary, you disrupt their identity. You see, they don't love you. They love who they get to be when you were broken. And that's the quiet tragedy. Your pain makes them feel important. So when you begin to heal, or assert yourself, or reclaim space, they feel abandoned, and they make sure you feel it too. They won't attack you. They'll withdraw their approval. You'll sense it in their tone, their silence, that vague heaviness after a conversation, that subtle punishment no one else sees. You'll start apologizing for things that aren't wrong. You'll start explaining why you didn't reply sooner, why you didn't invite them, why you needed time alone. Until one day you realize you're living like a defendant in your own life. You're not walking beside them. You're walking nice on eggshells. And worst of all, they never asked you to. You volunteered. Because that's what guilt does. It reshapes your spine to carry what was never yours. Jung would say, if it's taking your freedom, it's not love. It's a transaction disguised as care. But here's the deepest cut. You didn't just meet this person. You learned them. You internalized their pattern long before they arrived. Maybe from a parent, a sibling, a culture. Somewhere, you absorbed the belief that being loved means being indebted. And now, every time you try to breathe freely, you hear their voice in your chest whispering, "How dare you?" But ask yourself, how much of your life is built on guilt, not truth? And if they only love the version of you that stays small, is that really love at all? And the mirror that shatters when you glow. In the beginning, they cheer for you. They encourage your dreams. They say things like, "You're amazing. You're going places." And for a moment, you believe them, because they seem to believe in you. But watch what happens when your light grows just a little too bright. When you start actually succeeding, when you take up space, when others begin to notice your strength, they grow quiet. The praise fades, the smile tightens, their eyes begin to calculate. And then it begins, not as direct sabotage, no. That would be too obvious. They mask it as concern. Don't get ahead of yourself. Just don't forget where you came from. It's not all about you. They plant seeds of doubt in the name of humility. They diminish your fire while pretending to keep you grounded. Because here's the truth. They were never clapping for you, They were clapping for who you made of them feel like when you were beneath them. Your pain made them feel needed. Your struggle made them feel superior. Your confusion made them feel wise. But your growth? It threatens their self-concept. Carl Jung called this the projection of the shadow. When others cannot bear to see in you what they've repressed in themselves. So what do? They cut you subtly. Sarcastic remarks, backhanded compliments. Must be nice to have time for that. Wow, you've really changed. That last one always stings, doesn't it? You've changed. As if your evolution is a betrayal. As if your healing is an offense. But you need to understand something. They don't hate your light. They hate their own inability to find theirs. And when your glow reveals the dimness they've learned to tolerate, they resent you for showing them what they're not. You become a mirror, not of admiration, but of inadequacy. And so they shatter it, with small jabs, with distance, with silence, until you begin to wonder, did I go too far? Am I being selfish? Did I lose myself in the process? No. You just stopped shrinking, and now they don't know where to place you anymore, because their love had a ceiling and you just flew through it. Jung would say, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. So ask yourself, are you dimming to be digestible, shrinking to be safe? Because if your growth turns allies into enemies, they were never allies. They were just comfortable with your silence, not your strength. And what they call arrogance might simply be you finally remembering your worth, the invisible parasite. They don't scream, they don't accuse, they don't manipulate, at least not in a way that looks like manipulation. They suffer, they break, they collapse. And you're always the one expected to hold them together. At first it feels noble to be the strong one, the wise one, the stable shoulder when they fall apart. But over time, you begin to notice something. They're always falling apart, and you're always the one who must fix it. Your energy becomes their resource. Your attention becomes their oxygen. Your silence becomes their stage. They never ask you how you really are. And if they do, it's only to pivot back to themselves. Carl Jung spoke of this dynamic as psychic enmeshment, when one person loses their boundaries and another begins to live through them. You are not a person to them. You are a function, a place they run to when their own emotional home is on fire. And what makes this dangerous is not malice. It's neediness disguised as love. They don't want you to grow, because your growth means they have to face themselves. They want you stable enough to support them, but not free enough to leave. They'll say, "You're the only one who understands me. I don't know what I'd do without you." And that sounds romantic, until you realize what they love most about you is how much of yourself you're willing to abandon for them. This isn't empathy. This isn't intimacy. It's fusion. It's absorption. Your nervous system starts syncing with their chaos. You wake up tired, not from your life, but from carrying theirs. They don't heal. They hover. They don't grow. They cling. And the more drained you become, the more they say, "See, you're the only one who really gets me." It's a trap, and it works because you mistake usefulness for love. You begin to define your value by how much you absorb. But Jung would warn, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And people like this avoid that terror by living through you. So the question is not, why are they like this? The question is, why have you allowed yourself to be their emotional prosthetic? You are not responsible for their healing. You are not their therapist, their God, their savior. You are not a container for their chaos. If your presence is always a lifeline and never a meeting place, then it's not a relationship. It's a rescue mission. And eventually, the rescuer drowns too. The conditional companion. They're kind, they're present, they're supportive, until you set a boundary, say no, and watch the mask slip. It starts small, a pause in their tone, a delayed reply, a withdrawal of affection that feels like winter suddenly arrived in the room. Then comes the distance, not physical, emotional. They don't yell, they don't ask questions. They vanish in plain sight. Because for them, your worth was always tied to your compliance. As long as you were available, agreeable, useful, you were cherished. But the moment you ask for space, speak an inconvenient truth, or stop bending to their unspoken expectations, you become a problem. Carl Jung warned us about the trap of the persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted. But here's the thing. Some people fall in love with your mask, not you. And when you take it off, They no longer recognize or respect what remains. This person doesn't love you. They love the version of you that makes them comfortable, the self-sacrificing you, the yes you, the emotionally obedient you. They'll say things like, "You've changed, you're being difficult, I don't know how to talk to you anymore." But what they really mean is, "I can't control you anymore," because you've stopped performing, you've stopped apologizing for existing, you've started to choose yourself, and that makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability is unacceptable for someone who needs to feel in control of your reactions to feel safe in the relationship. This is not abandonment. This is emotional blackmail in silence. Their love had terms, and your authenticity violated the contract you never agreed to. Jung would say, "The most damaging thing is the refusal to confront the unconscious agreements we make to be loved." You were taught, maybe from childhood, that affection must be earned through compliance. And so, even now, their withdrawal doesn't just sting. It confirms a fear that love leaves when you become real. But what if that's not love at all? What if that disappearing act is the gift of revelation? Because once someone vanishes in the face of your truth, they show you exactly what they were there for. And it was never your wholeness. So here's the hard truth. Anyone who disappears when you say no was never really present when you said yes. The quiet tyrant. You speak gently. You pause before responding. You cry when something matters, or when it breaks you. And instead of being met with understanding, you hear, "You're too emotional. You overthink everything. Why do you take things so personally?" It doesn't feel like abuse. There's no yelling, no insults, just a steady erosion of your permission to feel. They don't attack you. They diminish you, softly, consistently, with a smile. Your instincts are treated like inconveniences. Your sensitivity is framed as weakness. Your emotional depth becomes a punchline at dinner, or a cause for concern, or worse, a reason not to take you seriously. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the suppression of the feminine principle in both men and women, the emotional, intuitive, symbolic aspect of the psyche. And he warned, what is rejected within becomes cruel without. This person has likely exiled their own sensitivity long ago. So when they see yours, they react not with empathy, but irritation. Not because you are wrong, but because your presence reactivates a softness they were taught to fear. They don't know how to sit with silence. They don't know how to cry. They don't know how to feel without filtering it through performance. So, when you show up in your rawness, your pause, your tears, you disturb the illusion they've built around themselves. And what they can't integrate, they belittle. Not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from the ache of vulnerability they buried long ago. Still, the damage is done. Over time, you start to second-guess your own emotions. You stop speaking up when something hurts. You call yourself dramatic. You apologize for your tears. You become the harsh parent you never needed, in your own mind. And eventually, you begin to believe that you must be broken. That strength looks like silence. That real adults don't feel that much. But here's the brutal truth. They didn't hurt you by being cruel. They hurt you by convincing you that your softness needed to be managed. Jung would say, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But how can you become that person if the core of who you are has been labeled excessive, dramatic, inconvenient? Here's what you must remember. Sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a compass. And anyone who needs you to dull your perception so they can tolerate your presence is not safety. They are noise in disguise. So ask yourself, when did you start apologizing for your depth? And more importantly, when will you stop?